Canadian adventure. Today we're going to explore 9 of the most haunted places in Canada. Although Canada is a young country, we have a turbulent history and many old buildings that remain haunted by their former inhabitants. So if you're brave enough for a spooky adventure, consider visiting one of these most haunted places in Canada. The first place on our list is the Merritton Tunnel. The Merritton Tunnel, also known as the Blue Ghost Tunnel and the Grand Trunk Railway Tunnel, is an abandoned railway tunnel in Thorold, Ontario. It's one of the most popular destinations in Canada for ghost hunters and one of the most haunted places in Ontario. The tunnel was built over 140 years ago to safely transport cargo from Lake Erie to Lake Ontario, spanning a total length of 713 feet when including the winged stonework at either end. Hundreds of men armed with picks and shovels, as well as several horses, were used in the excavation of the tunnel. During construction, the tunnel claimed the lives of 3 immigrant workers, including a 14-year-old boy. After its completion, more continued to perish. January 3, 1903, engine number 4 and engine number 975 met in a head-on collision approximately a third of a mile from the western entrance of the tunnel. The trains were moving at approximately 22 miles per hour when they crashed and killed the firemen of both trains. They could never recover their full bodies. In total, 107 men were killed during the construction of the tunnel and the canal in its surrounding area. The tunnel is considered to be one of the most haunted places in the Niagara region. Various paranormal experiences are reported, including voices, cold spots, and physical pushing. A mysterious blue ghost has given rise to the name Blue Ghost Tunnel. They sealed the tunnel in 2007, but you're still able to explore some parts that aren't underwater. But would you still want to visit this scary site? Number 2. Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel, Alberta. Since it opened to the public in 1888, the Banff Springs Hotel has seen history, celebrity, and rebuilds. But it's also seen tragedy. Millions of guests have checked in, but a few have never checked out. There has been plenty of reports of guests claim it's difficult to sleep with many paranormal stories. Haunted Room 873. This room was reportedly the scene of a tragic murder of a family. Its door has since been bricked up and made to look like the rest of the wall in the hallway. Guests have reported seeing apparitions outside this room, possibly members of the family that were reported to have been murdered here. There have been reports from guests who've interacted the late Sam the Bellman, who is known to adored his job and continues to assist guests with their luggage in the afterlife. However, not much is known about how or where he died. His spirit is said to haunt the hotel to this day. Probably the most famous ghost at the Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel is that of the Ghost Bride. The story goes that on the young couple's wedding day, the bride, decked out in her wedding gown, descended one of the hotel's marble staircases. Something startled her, causing her to slip and fall. Some say she caught her heel in the hem of her dress. Others say her dress brushed up against a candle's flame. Whatever the cause, the end result is the bride died on those steps. It's been said that she occasionally drifts into the ballroom, the place where she would have had her first dance. Book a room and see if the stories are true if you dare. Number 3, Five Fisherman's Restaurant, Nova Scotia. The Five Fisherman Restaurant is one of the best places to eat in Nova Scotia, and it's one of the most haunted places in Canada. Many of the staff of the Five Fisherman Restaurant are so used to odd occurrences that they wouldn't even bat an eye when a glass flies off a shelf. What is now a restaurant, a building that was originally constructed as a schoolhouse in 1817, Snow and Company Undertaker, the city's first mortuary, moved into the clapboard and stone building after the school relocated. After the deadly disaster of the Titanic, the majority of the victims who have been laid to rest in Nova Scotia were interred at this very site. It's hard to believe with the opulence of the dining establishment, but any waiter is happy to recount exactly where the bodies were interred. Now, glasses routinely fly off shelves, place settings fall at random, taps turn on and off, and some people even hear their names being whispered. The Five Fisherman Restaurant also has a view of St. Paul's Church, where you can see the outline of a human in the window. But there's no one there. There are differing stories attached to the silhouette. The most popular story, which is told in a local walking ghost tour, is the tale of a young organist practicing in the church at the time of the explosion. The young man's head was severed from his body by way of the explosion's concussion, or a shard of glass, and blasted through the window. The face in the window is the most mysterious artifact from the disaster, though, even though they've cleaned the window multiple times, but the same dark outline always returns. Number 4. The Carlton Jail, Ottawa, Ontario. Now we head to Canada's capital to the Carleton County Jail, also presently known as the Ottawa Jail Hostel. Originally, the building houses the Carleton County Jail, a maximum security prison. The prison, like many others, has a very dark past. It is known for its harsh conditions, public hangings, tiny cells, and much more unbearable things. Many inmates died due to these conditions, while others were publicly executed on the ground. Now, as the Ottawa Jail Hostel, many of these past inmates still haunt the very cells you'll sleep in. Guests wake up in the night to ghostly specters of men around their beds. One of the most common reported apparitions is a man clutching a Bible. He is believed to be Patrick James Whelan, who was jailed for assassinating a politician, Thomas D'Arcy McGee. On February 11, 1869, he was hanged for the murder. He went to the gallows protesting his innocence. Number 5. Victoria's Fairmont Empress Hotel, British Columbia. Now we're traveling to farthest west of the country to Vancouver Island for Victoria's Fairmont Empress, British Columbia. Victoria's Fairmont Empress, which opened in 1908, has been featured in Condé Nast Travelers, opens in a new tab, list of 44 most haunted hotels in the world. The Empress is said to be haunted by the ghost of the hotel's architect, Francis Rattenbury, according to the major publication. It is said that the architect, Francis Rattenbury, haunts the very halls he designed. Although he was brutally murdered by his wife's lover in England, he returned to his greatest work to seek the recognition he so craved. Rattenbury is not the only spirit that's said to have taken up residence at the hotel. According to Ghostly Walk Tours, several dozen ghost sightings have been reported at the hotel. The ghost of Lizzie McGrath has haunted the Empress Hotel, according to local legend, since she fell from its top floor in the early 1900s. Some facts around her death have been obscured over time. Residing in the hotel as a chambermaid, Lizzie apparently remained there after her death as a ghost, who has been seen diligently cleaning rooms on the 6th floor and roaming the gardens in the area she fell. Number 6. St. Louis Ghost, Train, Saskatchewan. One of our most enduring mysteries is the St. Louis Ghost Train, a strange phenomenon named after the central Saskatchewan village where it occurs. In St. Louis, Saskatchewan, an abandoned railroad track is the source of paranormal stories. Although the train tracks north of the village of St. Louis were removed years ago, the community still has a mysterious ghost train, lighting the path where the tracks once were. Ghost hunters aren't sure if it's the light of the ghost train still following the abandoned tracks, or if it's the lantern of the beheaded engineer looking for his head. Number 7. Peggys Cove Lighthouse, Nova Scotia. Peggys Cove is known not only for its beauty and lighthouse, but also for its ghost stories. One of the most famous ghost stories from Peggys Cove is that of the Lady in Blue. Lady in Blue. It has been said that she looks poised to jump into the sea, and when someone tries to help, she disappears. Peggys Cove has a few versions that was believed to take place, but the most popular version is that of a shipwreck survivor named Margaret. As this version is told, her children died in the wreck, leaving her to pace the shore grieving their loss. Her husband tried to cheer her by dancing on the rocks, but he slipped and fatally crushed his skull. Shortly after his death, she took her own life by jumping into the sea at the spot where he died. Today, there are reports of a mysterious lady in blue who looks poised to jump into the sea. Number 8. Delta Besaro Hotel, Saskatchewan. The Delta Besaro is a famously haunted hotel in Saskatchewan. One of the legends people talk about is that of the fallen bellman. As the story goes, he was running with luggage down a set of stairs, and he tripped and fell and died. There is a section of broken marble on one of the staircases. Some believe you can see the ghost of the bellman at this spot. Another story is the man with the gray fedora. As the tale is told, some guests and staff say they have seen a figure moving through the terrace lounge. Although there is not much information on this tale, it is by far the spookiest. There is a woman that looks rather small and tired. Her hair is a mess, and her clothes are torn in many places. If you're quiet and you stay out of her way, she doesn't acknowledge you. But if you make too much noise or you try to communicate with her, she runs up to you, screams at you, then she disappears. Number 9. Prince George Hotel, Ontario. Kingston's Prince George Hotel is located right downtown Kingston, Ontario. Originally, this former hotel was home to the Herchmer family in the 1800s. The story is told that Lily Herchmer, the daughter of the original builder, was having a love affair with a sailor who often sailed through the Kingston Harbor. Her parents were strongly against that relationship, so the young couple met in secret. They had a secret code where she would light a lantern in the window to call for him. One night, the lantern blew over after she fell asleep, waiting for her lover, and unfortunately, the hotel room caught fire. She perished in her room before the fire was put out. Now, the ghostly apparition of a young woman has been seen watching out the window towards the harbor. Perhaps Lily is still watching and waiting for her sailor love. The pub located in the hotel has boasted the appearance of a young woman and sailor. Many strange and unexplained things have happened over the years. Perhaps love does indeed conquer all, including death, if this is indeed Lily and her sailor. Canada is a land of mystery and intrigue, with a long history full of strange stories and unexplained phenomena. But why is Canada so haunted? Perhaps it's because this vast country has seen more than its fair share of tragedy throughout history, from wars and plagues to devastating natural disasters. Whatever the reason, there's no shortage of haunted places that you might want to stay clear of.